scapegoat has been swallowed by the Pearson will, with the exception of McGraw-Hill. Now, Sir Michael Barber is their chief education advisor, and he's been a huge advocate for global standards and global education reform, especially that which is workforce-based. He's made a mess out of the education system in the UK. And in the UK, they are having some of the same conversations we're having right now. He talks about sustainable reform as irreversible reform. And he says to our policymakers, make it so that it can never go back to how it was before. Work on the culture and the minds of teachers and parents. This is one dangerous guy. But he's got a fluffy British accent. People think it's sunshine and applesauce. Pearson is a contracted vendor of Common Core. Not only do they, just by default, because of their monopoly of the system, publish most of what our children read in textbooks and online programs, but they are the contractor for the new tests, the new assessments, the PERC tests. So they dictate what our children read when they log on to these computer-based assessments. They write the questions. They make the profit. The more kids take a test, the more money they make. It's in their interest for our children to fail these tests. But then it gets better. The year that the standards were adopted, Pearson partnered with Mark Tucker's private corporation, America's Choice. Then the next year, Pearson partnered with Gates at Microsoft. Ready. It's the same 4 or 5 people making all the decisions here. Who is the third largest shareholder of Pearson Holdings? Gaddafi's son. The Libyan Investment Authority is the third largest shareholder of Pearson Education. I promise you, that is why you're seeing controversial revisionist history and controversial subjects coming out of these Pearson books. Did you all hear about what happened in Volusia County, Florida last year, before the holidays? Around Daytona Beach, Florida, there's a huge upset. The parents were burning the books in the street. It was either a geography or a social studies book. I want to say it was geography. I've got the name of it. Dedicated 34 pages to promoting Islam. And almost nothing to every other religion in the world. And this book wasn't even about religion. It was about geography. That's why. Pearson's not accountable to us. Pearson's accountable to its shareholders. Next slide. We, the United States Department of Education, in order to form a more perfect union, now bring you Race to the Top. In 2009, President Barack Obama announced this in the State of the Union address, and he said, you show us reform, we're going to show you the money. And he pledged $4.35 billion of your tax dollars from the stimulus fund to this effort. But it's a contest, it's a race. You have to act quickly, and not everybody's going to win. Okay? So you had to complete an application, and you had to submit a proposal. Most of these proposals were about 300 pages long. Bill Gates funneled a little over $2.5 million into sending a bunch of suits and ties to the states to help them write their proposals. And he funded all the research that they used to justify everything that was in their proposals. So you know how that research is going to read. It's going to read the way he wants it to read. He paid for it. In addition to offering the states a piece of this $4.35 billion pie, 2 other critical things were laid on the table. The first one was, you got a waiver from some of the worst provisions of No Child Left Behind, the disastrous education reform that came from the George W. Bush administration. That reform was causing schools to close left and right. Administrators hated it, parents hated it, teachers hated it. It created the teach to the test, reality, it makes it worse and increases the testing, by the way. But the states were offered a waiver from having to meet those adequate yearly progress requirements. And then the icing on the cake, well, if you don't take it, if you don't apply for this, you may lose your Title I money. Title I money is the money we get from the feds to pay for the disadvantaged students. Does it sound like the states really have a choice? Does it sound like this is state-led and they're chomping at the bit, or does it sound like they're being baited and coerced in the middle of a recession? Okay. So, when you fill out the Race to the Top application, there were 4 things you had to demonstrate. Those things are known as the 4 assurances, and those are in Arne Duncan's 2010 speech to UNESCO as well. These are the things we were graded on. You get so many points for each one. For instance, for the first one, common standards and assessments, you got 70 points based on how your proposal met that need. The second one, state longitudinal databases, which were already in the works. Now they're just tying it into this report. Third, teacher accountability measures. And fourth, turning around low-performing schools, which is really just government speak for bring in the charters. Okay? All right, so these are the things we had to demonstrate in our proposal. Look, this violates 3 federal laws. The General Education Provisions Act, the Department of Ed Organization Act, and ESEA of 1965. There are amendments in all 3 of these that specifically say that the federal government is prohibited from exercising any direction, any supervision, or any control over the curriculum. They are driving that curriculum. They're funding it to the hilt. This is a violation of federal law. That doesn't seem to be an issue these days. They're just breaking federal mandates left and right. Next slide. This is also a violation of the 10th Amendment. Education has always been a 10th Amendment issue. It's up to the states to deal with that. The Constitution does not give education over to the federal government. We know why. There's a reason for that. Our founding fathers learned that lesson the hard way on the other side of the pond. And they tried to make sure that they put things in place to prevent that from happening again. And once again, Americans are giving up their freedom in the name of money. Well, in April of 2013, Congress finally put together what was going on, because Congress was completely bypassed in this effort. And a whole bunch of them signed this letter. It's in the congressional record. You can read it online too. Up to Arne Duncan saying, hey, over here, you bypassed us. You made changes to federal disbursement policies. You're handing out money like candy. You didn't come to Congress. We have a problem with this. We feel this is a one-size-fits-all policy that doesn't meet the needs of the states. It doesn't do much. It just gets it in the record. A whole lot can be done there. Next slide. If you happen to be a Republican voter, then this would be a good nugget for you to carry in your pocket. There are Democrats opposed to this too, but the RNC has made it part of the party platform to call for a repeal of Common Core. You can read this resolution. Here's the link to it. If you just Google, RNC Common Core repeal, you'll get it. Which begs the question, why isn't every Republican legislator and every Republican candidate coming out against Common Core? We've got some rhinos on the other side of the state line too that don't follow the party platform. So that's important if you happen to be a Republican voter. Now the Democrats are coming around. There are coalition groups made up of Democrats. There's Democrats Against Common Core, which is a national group, and another one called United Opt-Out. The Democrats and the Republicans tend to hate Common Core for different reasons. The Republicans tend to despise it because it's that federal overreach on constitutional practices and the indoctrination that comes with this. oppose it because of the high-stakes testing and the teacher evaluations. You know. So, it's an equal opportunity agitator. Everybody's got a reason to dislike it. Pick one. Next. Oh, I was going to tell you, there's a District 6 or 16, something like that, in Seattle, of all places. A Democratic caucus unanimously resolved opposing Common Core. That was huge. Seattle.